Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, folks, the more I dig in and the more all of the content creators on YouTube, the police dig into this case of poor Madeline Soto, we learn things all the time, and perhaps we're learning things now that the police knew for a while, but it's getting released through Freedom of Information Law, Freedom of Information Act, whichever you want to call it. Grizzly, a true crime creator, she had a lot of the material released. Some other content creators also have, but we've also had so many questions about this case. And we all know, for one thing, that this poor young girl by the name of Madeline Soto lived such a tortured life in her only 13 years on this earth. And this man we see in the picture, Stefan Stearns, just an evil, demented human being, if you could even call him that. 37 years old, and when I think of the term loser, you could spell it Looza. He was a loser, this guy. Didn't work, lived off his family. His mother and father at the age of 37 was vaping and taking all kinds of drugs to cope with his inability to cope, perhaps because of his inability to be a real man, you know. But we're finding out more and more things that the police, again, have known for a while, but they're getting released now. And as we find out these things, we are more and more horrified about this case and what this poor child, Madeline Soto, went through. But at the same time, I question this woman here, Jennifer Soto. And we've done other shows where we ask the question, should she be charged? And, you know, some journalists have put it out there. Some other content creators have put it out there. Oh, they don't have anything to charge her with. That is absolute bullshit. She could be charged. She could be charged right now. And at least a foolproof charge would be the endangering the welfare of a minor. She could be charged with that. Can they connect her to the murder? Or can they connect her to, in some way, through omission, the horrible life she subjected her poor little daughter, Madeline, to? And I say yes. I say yes. And I'm not saying specifically the murder. I want to know, and we'll come up with some answers tonight. When did she know about the murder? When did she know that Stefan Stearns killed her little girl? There you see on the screen all those 60 SA charges that, you know, they strategically, they have the prosecution is in so much of the driver's seat in this case because they charged at 60 felonies and they put him in prison for the rest of his life. And then they try the murder case and they go for the death penalty. That's what this dirtbag Stefan Stearns deserves. But at that point, remember, there is no statute of limitations for homicide. So at that point, after perhaps Stefan Stearns goes to trial for the murder and gets convicted, as I believe he will be, will they then bring charges forth on Madeline Soto and now, on Jennifer Soto? And those are questions that all you guys listening to this show in the chat want to know the answers to. And we want to know the answers to too. And the only ones that really know full well many of the answers to the investigation in this case are the outstanding detectives from the Kissimmee Police Department that worked this case. And they've done an unbelievable job. So, folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your thoughts, hold on to your questions, hold on to your family, hug your loved ones. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch, Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Tonight, we're going to go through some of the new documented evidence in this case, and we'll raise questions and we'll hopefully come up with answers, but we'll also raise some questions. And to join me tonight to dissect this very complicated case is retired NYPD Sergeant, Professor of Criminal Justice at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Michael Geary. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Bill, thank you for having me on. Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
You know, Mike, as I was talking about, and a lot of content creators have put out some of the new evidence, the new paperwork. And one of the things that we know, and we'll show some of the paperwork later to it, or some of the, look, every time a detective does a report or interviews someone, they do something called a complaint follow-up. On the NYPD, we call it a DD5. In Kissimmee, they call it a supplemental report, a supplemental complaint report. And in this report, as released by one of the other content creators, there is the results of the autopsy. And specifically in cause and manner of death. And the cause of death has been ruled strangulation. So we now know something that we hadn't known before, that the cause of Madeline's death has been ruled strangulation. Now, the manner of death was ruled homicide. And again, we being the former professor, there's 5 ways you can manner of death: homicide, suicide, natural, accidental, and undetermined. All right. So it has been, the man has been ruled a homicide and the cause has been ruled strangulation. Is that something we hadn't known before? And now we know this. And there was some conjecture, even because they found a gun up in the infamous guest room number 4, that could have been possible that he shot Madeline. Well, hopefully this report, this new information, closes the door on that. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, the autopsy report was excellent, and was written by one of the investigators who actually witnessed the autopsy, who was there when the body was found. Poor Maddie's body was found on that country road. And the next day when the autopsy was there, the investigating detective was witnessing the autopsy. Thankfully, that puts that idea of the firearm to bed. We talked about it, and we figured that the poor Maddie was killed sometime in the early morning hours, and unless there was some way to silence that firearm, it was most likely strangulation or something like that. And that's what it turned out to be. It's a small place, 4 bedrooms in one small, probably like walk-up co-op or something like that kind of thing. And she was killed without making barely any noise that anybody else heard in the house. So we kind of figured that's where it is, because strangulation is such a popular method in terms of raw numbers of killing people. That's probably what happened. And so it looks like our speculation was correct.
Well, Mike, one of the things that the medical examiner did say is that the hyoid bone was displaced.
Right.
And for anyone that has heard that term, in a good percentage of death by strangulation, the hyoid bone is either damaged, cracked, and that was the case here. So that was what led the medical examiner to rule this a death by strangulation. I'm going to put this report up. This is from Law and Crime. Let me just play this here.
The bottom of Madeline's socks were clean, which indicates she did not walk anywhere, or the socks would have had dirt on the bottom. Those documents that were just released said that Maddie's autopsy determined her death was a homicide and that she had been strangled. The exact time Maddie died isn't known, but her health app only showed her taking those 163 steps that morning between 7:05 and 7:15. Photos also show part of the searches of the condo where Maddie lived with her mom and those two female roommates. Some photos show the area of the living room where Maddie's room was located, but her mother, as I mentioned earlier, told detectives she didn't like to sleep there, so she typically slept with her. Jen Soto was asked to describe her sex life with Stefan by detectives.
I'm going to skip that part
Yeah.
because I don't want. Now, I want to cut to this is another new part of this, and this is Stefan Stern's parents being interviewed. And when I spoke about what an absolute dirtbag Stefan Stearns is, listen to his parents speak about him.
Since December, Maddie disappeared at the end of February. Detectives spoke with them days after Maddie's body was found.
Do you think he was capable of doing what he did?
I would, if you had asked me Sunday, I would have said no, never in a million years. He loved that child. It was supposed to be his stepdaughter if they stayed together. He helped raise her. He was not allowed.
This is the voice of Deborah Stearns, who is Stefan Stearns' mom, and Chris, his father, is named Chris. So I'm going to play their interviews. But it sounds like they're the parents of a teenager. The guy's a loser, an absolute loser.
Allowed to discipline her. Maddie did that. Jen did that, but he acted as a peacekeeper. But no, and to kill her, no. I think if I had to put forward a guess, I would think that it was accidental.
Here's Stefan Stearns' father, Chris Stearns.
I said, do we really know our son? Because at that point, I didn't know what to question. But
Apparently not, from some of the stuff that's coming out of these calls into Grey Hughes.
That interview was in March. In April, detectives made note of a jail phone call between Chris Stearns and Stefan Stearns. During the call, detectives quote Stefan Stearns as saying, "You know that I would never have wanted that for her," meaning Madeline. Stefan then said, "I am not really sure that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it. I have never felt anything like that before. It was horrible." Chris tells Stefan that he hopes the truth will come out, and Stefan responds, "Well, yeah." The next day, Chris Stearns called police after he found a hard drive in his storage unit that he said had been removed from Stefan's computer. Investigators said it had been analyzed and not used since 2020, but contained 35,000 images of child pornography.
Wow. That's something new that none of us had known. At first, we were told there was 1,700 images of bad things on his phone. And now on a hard drive, we're hearing, did I hear correctly, 35,000 images of bad child pictures, right? So just how do parents, is it possible that these parents, Chris and Deborah Stearns, they didn't know their son, that they didn't know that this is what he was capable of?
Bill, as a parent, you always want to think the best of your children and hope for the best for their lives and their future. And you always want to think that they're honest, they're hardworking, and they may have troubles, but maybe in some ways, looking back now, of course, this is hindsight, it's 2020, but looking from their point of view, he has troubles getting a job, holding a job. He's got some sort of anxiety issues. He's got a girl named Jennifer and her daughter Maddie in his life. Maybe that'll help him. He's our son. We love him. And we don't know exactly what he does all the time. It seems like he doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. But they may not have actually been as aware as we might think. They may have been very unaware. The stuff might have been came off a hard drive or something like that. He might have been doing this stuff in his room with the door locked, exchanging photographs and downloading images from some sort of site. And I'd love for the police to investigate that. But they may not have actually ever really thought he would be capable of hurting anybody in any way. They probably thought he was a helpless guy, but that's pretty far from being an abuser or potentially a killer. So, they do seem, when I could hear from their voices, the mom and dad did seem quite taken aback, but it did seem honest reactions to what they were probably being told by the investigators. At this point, I'm thinking that those are honest answers.
Well, Mike, to tell you the truth, I think his parents were enablers, because any parents that support a 37-year-old man who is totally capable of working, they were paying his rent at Jennifer Soto's house. Is that outrageous? 37 years old, this loser didn't work. His daddy and his mommy were paying his rent at his girlfriend's house. And then when he would get kicked out or left, he would come back home to mommy and daddy and complain about the loudness of their poodles. This guy is, they raise poodles,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I question the parents too. Let me get back to this.
But none of Maddie. Chris Stearns had told detectives that he actually believed Jen Soto had some responsibility for her daughter's murder.
You look at her hugging him and consoling him at that interview, knowing full well what the truth is. And I think Stefan's decided to be the fall guy in this because he's feeling remorse over the inappropriate relationship he had with Maddie, and that since if he's going to be discovered in this, that he's going to be the front guy of this. But she's just as culpable as he is in this.
There have been a lot of questions about whether Jen Soto could face charges for allowing Maddie to sleep in a bed with Stefan Stearns. WFTV reported last week that police have no plans to charge Jen Soto. I contacted the state attorney's office for that area, and I was told, quote, the current evidence and information support the indictment of Stefan Stearns for first-degree murder. They wouldn't say anything more. Stefan Stearns remains behind bars, charged with Maddie's murder and sexual battery. I asked whether a plea deal could be in the works for him, and I was only told that the case continues to move through the judicial process.
So, something, again, that's a very political answer being given by the prosecutor. And the prosecutor is going to stay with that because, as we explained a number of times, they're in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
They have the 60 felony charges against him. They try that case first. That is a life in prison case. And he gets convicted of that. They got him on, they put him in jail for life, in prison. He goes to prison for life. Now they have the murder case, which is a capital case that he can get the death penalty for. They're in no rush to charge Jennifer Soto with anything. Strategically, it is in their favor to wait till they get both of these cases against Stefan Stearns, get the 60 felonies out of the way of the SA, and then try him for the capital murder case. They can wait to prosecute Jennifer Soto. And if they don't arrest her, they can use her as a witness. Not that they need to. I think the case is so strong that they don't need to, but they surely can more easily use her as a witness. And don't forget, if they drop charges on Jennifer Soto, the speedy trial clock starts ticking.
That's right.
So there's no reason for them to do that. You even hear other people saying they think she's complicit in the murder. Like, my question is, when did they find out? When did she find out? When did she know that he had in fact killed her daughter? And it's not if, she knew it at some point. When was that? And you may ask, what was her involvement? Mike.
Yeah, Billy, as you say, there is absolutely no rush. Time is in a weird way, thankfully, because in many cases, the time isn't always on the prosecutor's side. But in this case, time is definitely on the prosecutor's side. Then the driver's seat, they're going to do this case with the SA. If they get a conviction, they're going to move forward, of course, on the homicide case. I just wonder, Jen will be called as a witness. probably by the prosecutor. I don't think they would not call her. They definitely call her. I would just wonder what kind of immunity that they would give her for in return for her testimony. That will be something that they'll have to figure out in the couple of months before the trial for the images. But I imagine that they may give her some. I don't think complete immunity, but I think they'll give her some immunity. Now, when it gets back to when she knew, you and I talked a little bit about this before we went on the air, and I'm trying to figure out kind of like exactly when. And my best guess from my instinct is that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the 26th, when Stearns took her to school, and then and Jennifer was asleep, and he did the thing with the dog, and she woke up. She went to the doctor's office. She came back. He was there. They hung out. My best guess is that she after 4 o'clock when the teacher told her that, Maddie never reported for school. She was never here, not even in a single class from 8 o'clock on. At that point, you hear in her questioning by the detectives, what flashed in her mind is, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. And then she went back and she talked to Stefan. So my guess is somewhere around after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when she went back and she talked to Stefan, and he gave her the statements that, oh yeah, I dropped her off. Oh yeah. At that point, I think she probably pretty much knew what the deal was. That's my guess from this point. It could be wrong, but I think right around 1,600 hours, 1,700 hours that evening, that Monday evening, I think she kind of knew exactly what the deal was.
Mike, at 0200 hours, 0215 hours on the 226,
yes,
the roommate, I think it's Angelica, she hears a loud noise coming from guest room 4, as it's described. And that's where Madeline was sleeping that night, in the same bed as Stefan Stearns. That probably is the time that he murdered her, that he strangled her in that room. And potentially he gave her a dosage of drugs or whatever. That would also be in the autopsy and the toxicology report. But we'll show you some of the timeline. And that would make sense because we all know this 0735, he's seen dumping her backpack and her laptop in the dumpster at the condo complex. So it would make sense that she was killed in the early morning hours of the 25th going into the 26th. So it would actually be the 26th. The other thing is, when they did recover her body, there was no dirt on the bottom of her white socks. So they conjecture that Stefan Stearns carried her over the fence and she never walked. And we'll even go over her. They talk about the steps on her iPhone, how many steps she took, but he probably just had the phone with him. She was already dead at that point. Let me go back to Law and Crime and play more of this right there report.
Okay, in Kissimmee, Florida, when her mother, Jen Soto, reported her missing on the evening of February 26th.
So she was supposed to be dropped off at school, didn't make it to school.
Didn't make it to school. I went to pick her up from school today, and she never came out. They announced it over the speaker, and I'm just like, maybe she walked here, because sometimes she'll walk here to this office. I came here, nothing. I went back to the school, they were closed. I got an email from the school saying she was absent, but I also messaged her teacher, and he looked at her entire attendance today and saw that she was completely not at school today either. So she never made it.
What's her name?
Madeline. Madeline.
Made.
Now, if she knows right there, if she knows that her daughter is dead right there, Mike, she's pretty damn cool in the way she's reporting it. And I don't doubt, because I also think she's got issues, big time issues. So she knew right here. She apparently knew her daughter was dead right here, if we're believing all of the evidence they have. So let me go back to this and we'll pick this apart a little bit.
Last name?
Soto. Soto.
SOTO?
Deputies immediately began searching for Maddie, going through wooded areas and even trying to figure out if she ran away. As they did that, they interviewed Jen Soto and Stephen Stearns about what happened the morning of February 26th.
I heard everyone getting ready around, I'm going to say 7:30, 8 o'clock.
And was it just Steph? Who else lives here?
I have roommates.
Okay.
I have Angelica Negro.
Angelica is the woman who heard a loud noise coming from guest room 4 at around 0200, 0215. That would be a.m. on the 26th. So this, again, someone described it in the chat, this house of horrors had many tenants in this house of horrors. And when Jennifer Soto was saying right now, she heard everyone at about 0730, but she didn't see or hear Madeline. She never saw her. So she doesn't know Madeline could be dead right now, and probably is at this point dead. So she's not saying that, but she's saying she heard everybody, but she didn't see everybody.
There's one roommate, and then Natalie Rosero.
Okay. And you just heard all of them, or did you hear anyone in specific?
No, I just heard, if anything, Stefan came and woke me up accidentally because he was trying to let the dog out.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog gets really nervous sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to help him with that, get him on his leash. But he got him situated and took him for a walk.
Okay. Did you hear around 7 or 8?
I heard noises in the kitchen, but I'm not sure,
Not sure who it was exactly.
Who it was exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
It could have been any of the roommates.
But you didn't see her leave Monday morning. Were you still in bed or still in your room?
I was still asleep, yeah.
Gotcha.
That week, canines checked out the cars belonging to both Maddie's mother, Jen Soto, and her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Stefan Stearns, who had come to town that Sunday night. The dog barked at Jen Soto's car, but it's really not clear why. This was a cadaver dog, but detectives had said Stearns had Maddie's body in his car. Jennifer Soto told detectives she last saw Maddie on the evening of Sunday, February 25th, after she came home from work and after Maddie's birthday party.
So you last saw her Sunday night about what time?
I would say 11 p.m. before she went to bed.
And you were here at home? Gotcha. And where did she go to bed? Was she in her room, your room, or something else?
She actually slept upstairs with, we have a guest bedroom. We were all going to sleep together in the same bed, but I needed some good sleep. And I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So I asked, hey, can you guys go to the guest bedroom upstairs?
That's sort of where that bombshell information came out, that she allowed Madeline to sleep in the same bed as Stefan Stearns. And I think any parent that hears this absolutely cringes when they hear this, that she allowed this 13-year-old daughter to sleep in the same bed as this 37-year-old on-again, off-again boyfriend. And that is not okay. And I can imagine the detective taking this statement. I think it was Detective Hunt. He was probably cringing, but not showing how he felt about that, because that's the job of an investigator, an interviewer, to not show his emotions as he's being told something horrific. Your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, Billy, I think the cops did a great job from in this case, from the very beginning, when the uniformed cop came into that insurance office and spoke to Jennifer and Steph. I think he did an excellent job. Just writing it down. Interestingly, if according to my timeline and what I thought Jennifer's state of mind would be at that point, if as I believe she actually knew in her heart that and that Steph had maybe killed Maddie, and she's filing a false police report of a missing person, that makes her an accessory to murder after the fact, so that she would be a co-conspirator. So that's a scary thought. So the police did a great job. And when we talked about the female detective from the Special Victims Unit, and she was excellent too. And Tiger, the other guy, he was excellent. They were all very calm.
Well, Mike,
very,
just so we give credit where credits was due, they were from the Orange County, I think,
Orange County
Sheriff's Office, because initially
excellent.
the case was thought to belong to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and when they discovered the body and the location, I think the address, I think they determined the location of the murder was inside that condo, which was Kissimmee Police Department. Right. That's why Kissimmee took the case over. But many detectives from Orange County worked and are still working this case because they're involved in it right from the very beginning.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job, and hats off to them because they did it right. They really did it right, and they recovered all the evidence, the backpack, things like that, and the jacket from the trash. They got the video, they got the security camera footage, all that stuff. They got it. They put it together meticulously. They did a fantastic job. But interestingly, when you watch that tape of her and Jennifer and Stefan talking to the police officer with the first takes the report, he said Maddie had on a green hoodie and blue pants and white Crocs, and she cuts him off and says, no, she had on black shorts. She thought that she had on black shorts because she hadn't seen her since the day before, and apparently Maddie was going to wear black shorts to school the next day. So that proves that she never saw her. And Stearns actually was the one who described exactly what Maddie was wearing, because that's what she was wearing when they found her body like a week later. They found one Croc. They found she was wearing socks. They found the green hoodie, and they found that she was wearing blue pants. So excellent job all around by the cops all around.
Well, I think, Mike, she went missing on the 26th, was probably murdered on the 26th, and they found her on March 1st.
Right, exactly.
So there's a lot to get to before that. But folks, this police off the cuff real crime story, you like true crime, real crime from a police perspective, go on our YouTube, right on the screen, hit that subscribe button. I see a lot of new faces. If you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership with 5 different levels. I thank Carol Grayston, who just gifted 5 YouTube channel memberships to 5 lucky people. Anyway, I want to get away from that. I want to get right to this case because it's so important. We have so much great new information.
Upstairs. I knew he was going to get her ready.
Stearns and Maddie had spent the night in bedroom 4. There are photos of that were just released. Stearns said that Maddie had forgotten her phone when he took her to school that Monday morning.
I think you said she left her phone, right?
Yeah.
Where did she leave her phone at?
She left it in her room. She's ADHD. So am I, for that matter. So
you left your phone too, huh?
Yeah.
And Stearns would actually say that he and Maddie both forgot their phones that morning. Newly released documents show what happened between 11 p.m. Sunday night and the next morning. That Sunday night at 11:39 p.m., Jen Soto texted Stephen Stearns, "Make sure she goes to bed right now." Stearns responded, "Okay, sweetie, good night." Jen responded, "Good night." 1 minute later, Stephen texted Jen, "She's built her nest and she's settling in now." Jen responded, "Okay, good." There's also health app data from Maddie's phone that shows her movements from Sunday night to Monday morning. That Sunday night at 11:19 p.m., the report says that Maddie's phone took 31 steps and climbed 1 floor, which matched the time when Jennifer sent Madeline and Stefan upstairs to go to sleep. There's no more activity from the health app listed until the next morning. At 7:05 a.m. on February 26th, Maddie's phone took 113 steps.
Now, her phone took 113 steps. It could have been in the pocket of Stefan Stearns.
Right.
So, because we believe, and based on the roommate hearing the commotion or the loud noise from guest room 4 at 0200, 0215 hours, that potentially could be when Madeline's life was snuffed out by this tremendous dirtbag named Stefan Stearns. So with that in mind, just we'll listen to the rest of this.
10 minutes later at 7:15, the phone takes 50 steps. And then there's no other health activity on that phone until 10:55 a.m.
All right. So that, again, he had her phone on him. Because that's the only explanation, because remember, 7:35, he threw her backpack and her laptop.
Right.
And it turned out to be one crock into the dumpster, a white crock into that dumpster. So he must have had that phone on him while he was moving her body, Mike. That's the only explanation.
Yeah, because you think about it, 50 steps isn't far at all. I mean, that's just like you go from your front door out to the end of your driveway or something like that, or up 113 steps. That might be 2 or 3 times inside the house. We think she had that. She had his phone. He had her phone and his phone in his pocket, and he didn't realize her phone was counting the steps. He might have thought and might have been smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to keep the phones here because I know people can track phones. I know these things. So therefore, I'm going to just keep them with me, keep them here. But he didn't realize that even though the phones were going to be still at that location, that they were actually recording his activity. And you just figure you can't go very far with 100 steps or 50 steps. That makes it him going in and out, maybe to his car and back, maybe going around the corner, to dump something. That's all it is. It's just really close by. So that pretty much, to me, that's circumstantial evidence that, she wasn't alive. She wasn't moving around the house. That was him doing it, and that she was dead. And especially when you got that video of him putting stuff into her laptop and stuff in the dumpster right around that time. He's got it in his pocket. I'm not sure. It's not direct evidence of guilt, but it's strong circumstantial evidence of guilt.
Absolutely.
When Stefan arrived home to the residence, one of Maddie's friends also told police that she would have a text from Maddie every morning when she woke up. But not on the morning of February 26th. Maddie's best friend said she did not receive a text from Maddie. One of Jen Soto's female roommates was later interviewed and said she went to sleep around 2:30 that morning, and she said she was hearing noises coming from Stefan's room. She described the noise as someone putting stuff on a table, but in order for her to hear those noises, it would have to be significant based upon the noise would have to travel through 2 doors across the hallway. That same roommate said she saw Stefan that morning after she went downstairs around 10:30 a.m., and described Stefan as acting odd, going upstairs and downstairs and out of the apartment that morning. Stefan was also washing clothes that morning, which she had never seen him do before. Police searched the condo where Maddie lived with her mom. The makeshift bedroom on the first floor that belonged to Maddie looked untouched. She never slept there, according to her mother, but she hung out in that room during the day. Crime scene techs found one of Maddie's white Crocs in her mother's bedroom. That means she did not wear her white Crocs when she left the house that morning, as Stearns had claimed.
Anything else that we haven't asked that you feel is important? Maybe that might help us out?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble recollecting everything.
I'm going to step away for a second.
Anything that you remember maybe she might have told you?
She didn't mention anything in particular. I made a joke about her Crocs. She wears Crocs and socks. So we were joking about that.
Crime scene techs said they found the mate to that white Croc found in the bedroom in the dumpster.
Wow, that's pretty damn important. So the second Croc was found in the dumpster with her laptop and her backpack. So, and I apologize, I was wrong about the roommate. It's actually, she heard the noises coming from the room at 02:30. So that may have been the time that Madeline lost her life to this savage, and all these other movements. When did he carry her to the car? When did he do it under the cover of darkness? That's some of the questions we don't have answered, and I don't know if the paperwork that we're reading right now will definitely answer any of this for us. Debbie Brigham from the chat. MCC, she may have told her grandma, but I'm a survivor and I did not tell anyone from the time it started at 4 years old until 30 because it was hung over me. All right, Debbie, I know you were talking to someone else in the chat in regards to who Madeline may have told about this. But a question I also have is I'm not buying even that Jennifer Soto saw her on Sunday. She claims that around 11, there was that little, she's texting Stefan within her house about putting her daughter to bed. Was she alive at that point?
You know, Billy, that's an interesting thing. I never really gave that much thought. I always just thought, as I went over all the information from the Freedom of Information release, that around 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when maybe Madeline was killed by Stefan. You're right. It could be that many times she adopted Stefan's version of things when she said, "We dropped her off at school at 8 o'clock in the morning. We did this. We did that." So it could be in a weird way that, she adopted maybe his version of events. Maybe they were, she actually didn't see him. They were making noise, whatever, but she didn't see Jennifer. And she says, "Would you just please make her go to bed?" And he says, "Yes, honey." You don't know what condition Madeline was in at that moment. You don't know. She may have already been perished. And maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, he may have suddenly gotten the idea that I got to do laundry. I got to start cleaning. He might have been cleaning up the room really fast, trying to get any sort of forensic evidence out of there. So you're right. It's possible that looking at it, that Madeline may have passed away before 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe even before midnight.
Yeah, I agree. Alan G from the chat. This is a question in regards to Jennifer Soto. Why not go to the room? Obviously, because she's messed up. She's got her own drug issues, her own sleeping issues, her own mental health issues. And Alan, that would seem like a very good question. However, look at all the other things that Jennifer Soto does. So how can we ask a question that makes so much sense, like you just asked, when she does so many things that do not make sense in regards to her daughter, allowing her 37-year-old dirtbag boyfriend sleep in the same bed as her, right?
That's right.
Sassy Frass, DAJS, if SS was your boyfriend, did you sleep with him? JS, no, I had no interest, probably my meds. Who slept with SS, then JS? MS slept with, yeah, I mean, Sassy Frass, thank you for using the initials because YouTube doesn't like when you spell it out. And yeah, I didn't want to spell out that part of it for many reasons. MCC, if there were laws concerning SA like they are concerning murder, custodians of children might start paying attention. If you were with someone who killed someone else, you can be charged the same. MCC, there are apps, but we don't know what they know. We don't know right now. And like I've pretty much in the last few months, even right around when this occurred, I used the O word. I said omission. She should be charged because of omission. And I said that right from the beginning. And omission is just a failure to act when you have a legal obligation to act. And she had a legal obligation to protect her child, and she didn't. So there is one part of the law that the district attorney says and the police say, oh, she didn't break any laws. Oh, she certainly did. And if they want to go with that narrative, that's fine, because the Kissimmee Police and the Orange County Sheriff's Office, they're aces in my book. And this could be just a strategic way to prosecute from the district attorney's perspective. And believe me, they're doing the right thing. They're going to bring forth a great case. So I'm not going to criticize them now when we don't know what their strategy is. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, they got so much information on Jennifer, and going over all that Freedom of Information law information, just reading it and digesting it and rationalizing and thinking about it. her own testimony, her own interview questions, sink her, because she's in this weird relationship with Stefan Stearns and her daughter, and she's used to it. That's their normal little bubble. The way they do things really might be sick and demented, but in their view, that's the way they do things. That's their normal. And you can see when she's being interviewed, she's kind of rationalizing it because she knows he's looking at the detectives, and she knows that, what's going on isn't approved of by people. So she has to try to make, sense of it. Well, I just needed a good night's sleep. But, in her heart, she knows, and everybody knows what a crime is. And therefore, she's just sitting there trying to, using her own words to rationalize. It's like what they call a technique of neutralization. A criminal tries to neutralize any sort of public condemnation of their actions, so they rationalize it to cops by saying, well, this is that, and that's this, and this is the way we do things, blah, 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 blah. And the cops are looking at them like, you got to be kidding me. But they have so much information, and she provides it all. She's giving the police all the rope that they need to hang her. They got a ton of information. Later on, she even talks about, frankly, what she knew that was going on between Stefan and poor Maddie, and that's sickening. And she's just, her own words are just putting her behind bars.
Alley Cat, great question. What about rigor, guys? How long? I used to know all of this when I was a homicide sergeant. I believe the body goes into rigor mortis from 2 to 3 hours after death. But then a certain amount of hours after that, the rigor mortis breaks and the body becomes movable again. So I don't have that time frame, but that's a great question, Alley Cat.
Really?
And there's also something called lividity, which will show what the blood pools at the dependent area of the body. So if she was sitting in the car, the lividity would be on her back. That would show that. And then if it was moved and she was placed face down, the lividity would still be on the back, but it would, if left on its front, would move to the front, but it would always show, because that's how, when you get to a homicide crime scene, if you see the lividity all over the front of the body and there's none on the back, you know that someone flipped the body over, so that's a great question, Alley Cat. Absolutely excellent question. Let me go back to and Gannett Levy,
where they also found Maddie's backpack and school laptop.
We have video evidence that shows Stefan Stearns discarding items in a dumpster in that apartment complex in Kissimmee at 7:35 on Monday, February 26. Detectives later recovered Madeline's backpack and her school-issued laptop from that dumpster.
The sexual abuse and murder of Maddie Soto is hard.
I don't want to go into that because let me move on to.
We did make good time. We got out the door maybe 7:30ish, 7:45ish, maybe. Got over to that area. She was asleep in the car most of the time, just snoozing until we got there. We got to McDonald's. We're close to McDonald's. I said, "You still want it?" Wasn't interested in the McDonald's anymore, so we continued on.
Now, a lot of people found this very surprising when they heard it, because what kid turns down McDonald's breakfast? New documents and interviews with Jen Soto show that they had talked about Stefan and Maddie going to McDonald's the night before.
And so I think you had said the previous night, you and Stefan had agreed that he was going to get and take her in the morning? Okay.
And they were going to stop at McDonald's and get breakfast, but she changed her mind last minute and did not want McDonald's.
Okay. When'd you find that out?
When did I find that out? When Stefan called me around 10:18 in the morning, I had stepped out to go get blood work done.
Mm-hmm.
And he had just let me know that he just got back home from running a few errands. And that I asked, "Did you guys ever just stop at McDonald's?" And he said, "No, she changed her mind." He tried convincing her a few times, but did not want McDonald's anymore.
By now, you know that Maddie never made it to school that morning, and the sheriff of Orange County has said that Stephen Stearns was actually driving around with Maddie's dead body in the car that morning.
At 8:19, we have evidence that shows Stephen Stearns returning to the complex, and Madeline was visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time.
Search dogs had tried to pick up Maddie's scent to track her the night she was reported missing.
You know, just think of that. Here's a guy driving around with a 13-year-old dead girl in his car. The dead body of his girlfriend's daughter, the dead body driving around. And we're questioning whether this guy's sane or not, or whether Jennifer Soto knew anything about this. And this guy's driving around. So this is the person she was living with, a person who would drive around, first of all, murder a 13-year-old girl, and then somehow get her into his car must have been under the dark of night. At some point, he put her in the car, or at least it must have been dark out, and then drives around with her. But all these other things he accomplished, throwing her backpack and her laptop and her one Croc, it says a lot also. He was probably freaking out. Where's the other Croc? Oh, I only have one. And it was a white Croc, which is a shoe for those. We're not talking about a crocodile. It's a shoe that she wore. So he's accomplishing all of these things. And then at some point, he's at the Holiday Inn parking lot, caught on video, and he takes Madeline Soto's body out of the passenger seat and throws her in the trunk.
Billy, you know what? He probably was freaking out because, he didn't, this was probably not a planned thing. It was probably an anger thing. And so he murders Madeline. He's freaking out. So, and we're not sure about the time. So maybe somewhere between midnight and 2. He's trying to clean up. I think a roommate said she saw him when she got up around 10 o'clock in the morning. He was cleaning up everything like he never normally would do, laundry and cleaning, because he's too lazy to do that.
He's cleaning the crime scene, Mike.
Yeah, he's cleaning the crime scene. And I hate to say it, but thank goodness for his prosecution that he actually went to that Holiday Inn parking lot, because there's video of him from a security camera, maybe not the highest quality, but showing him taking what looks like a body out of the front and putting it in the front passenger seat and putting it in the trunk. Thank goodness for that, because that really does show that there was no way that girl could have been asleep. And, it's just another circumstantial bit of evidence that shows that she was already dead by that point. He didn't know what to do. It was getting more light out. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, more traffic. He can't keep just driving around now. He can't go back to the complex. He has to put that body. He has to hide that body until he finally figures out where he's going to put the body, where he's going to dispose of poor Maddie. And he has to get it out of sight. The only place to do that is put it in the trunk of the car. So for his prosecution, I'm glad they got that videotape, because that just shows, what his state of mind was at that point.
Absolutely. Kelly Wiseman, thank you for this information. Rigor mortis anywhere from 6 to 8 hours after death. And then Kelly, the rigor mortis breaks at some point. And I used to know all of these time frames. I don't anymore. But he could have moved her because the body would be more flexible after a certain amount of hours. Naomi McFarland, why haven't the other roommates see anything suspicious about Stefan and Jen? Well, Naomi, probably because they want to keep their room and they want to mind their own business, and you hear that old thing, MYOB, especially they're probably living cheaply in this condo complex by renting a room in this, what many of you in the chat have described as this horror house. Absolutely crazy. Kissimmee, Florida, when he returned to Venetian Bay to get his clicker, he came in the manned front entrance and the security guard spoke with him and clearly saw Madeline in the front seat, unmoving. Wow. Unbelievable, right? So that he's driving through the manned gate with a dead body in the front seat. Just absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. Jennifer White. Wonder what Jen thinks with both of them gone, that silence has to set in. Yeah, I guess. Sassy Fast.
You're right.
Sassy Fast. And that statement right there is an admission. Some of this new information we have is just mind-blowing. Toy Thomas, she vapes like crazy, but the I don't know what pill that is, or like heroin, unfortunately. Ali Tovar, she even confessed knowing Madeline was being abused on the police report. Yes. That's just, to me, that puts her in the mix as far as I'm concerned. That just puts her in there. And it's not even omission. She knew about it. She knew what was going on. Jason Brown, how drawn out investigations can become is frustrating. He's a clear pervert. He killed this child, had S with her. Her mother neglected her motherhood too. This poor girl. Jason Brown, 100%. Let me go back to the crime.
But they couldn't pick up the scent. 2 nights later, on February 28th, the canine handlers wanted to try again.
Hey guys, so we're just gonna try to see if we could pull one more clothing for collection of clothes. Okay, that's okay with you guys? Yeah. We're gonna pull one more, and then we're gonna have the dog sniff it out again and see if we can get another track going. Yeah. All right.
Can I get you like the last outfit she was wearing?
Has it been like with other clothes and all that, like your clothes?
It got mixed in with clean clothes and dirty clothes.
What do you think?
Is it on the floor there in the bathroom? It's in the laundry basket.
Were the other clothes not good enough?
No.
We just try to collect separate ones and then we separate all of them, just in case one was contaminated, we have something else we can use without having to come and bother you guys.
I was just thinking on Sunday, the last thing we had her. Sunday, she had a lot of questions for FHP. That would help.
Stearns is there. He's coaching them, and yet he knows he killed her, and he's standing there coaching them of what clothing items they should get. Just unbelievable.
Is it other people's dirty clothes or is it her just hers? Is her underwear?
A pillow that she likes to sleep with.
Her underwear is
I mean, all that stuff works.
Yeah, but you slept on the pillow this morning.
Oh, that's right. I snuggled with her pillow.
Would she
underwear? There would be underwear on the bathroom floor.
Okay, I thought I
and
saw
that hasn't been touched. Yeah.
Okay, then that's like the closest thing to her body.
Yeah.
So.
That search using the canines was again unsuccessful. The next evening, on Thursday, February 29th, detectives were driving Jen Soto to a planned press conference.
My anxiety keeps my brain circling, just wondering, where is she? Is she okay? I hope she's fine. I just want my baby back.
During the ride, the detective asked Jen Soto again about Stefan and Maddie sleeping in the same bed. At times, the audio drops out. That's because it's redacted when Maddie's name is used.
I was very vigilant for the first few years of how he would interact with her and what he would do, and I would question if anything was weird, but nothing ever was truly weird. I'm just like, okay. I even had a rule for the longest time for sleepovers with him, as in if he were to sleep in the guest bedroom upstairs, and I would say, no, you guys can hang out and do whatever, but you're sleeping with me.
Understandable.
Just because even if I'd known him for 7 years, the idea of course it would be weird Eddie going out, a little girl sleeping with a man that's not her dad. It sounds weird, but so I haven't. I trusted him enough to let that even happen that night. You know.
Yeah. I mean, is it common? Because I know you said you would never let him in the past, but is it common to let her sleep up with him or let them spend a lot of time alone together?
I think I'm gonna say I've let them sleep together less than what I can count on these two hands.
Okay.
Not much.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Right.
To me. I would say that I let them sleep together less than what I can count on these two hands.
Right.
Oh,
Not
that
much.
that absolves you of everything. That absolves you because it's less than 10. That absolves you of all sins. In fact, Father Geary will absolve you. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, she's missing quite a few brain cells. Just absolutely outrageous. Maritza Torres. I have a question. With all the videos being made, was he selling them in the CSAM page to all the pervs? If so, where is the money? I'm sure JS knows about the videos where and who has bought them. Maritza, his father questioned where was he getting all the money, because he was always buying things. He was always having things delivered to their house. And he only paid for his rent. So he questioned, so he must have been making money in the, let's call it the underground sale of these videos. And that, of course, will be part of this extended investigation. This could open up what they found on his phone and what they found, the 35,000 images on a hard drive, can open up a Pandora's box of new investigative possibilities leading all over the country and all over the world, possibly. Because there are definitely these cells of these type of people and birds of a feather, as you know, stick together. And so I guarantee you that some of the things they found during this investigation have opened up other avenues of investigation and other avenues of horrific crime in this whole dark web thing. Mike.
Yeah, but that is one good thing that will come from this, is that you get the special victims detectives, and maybe, of course, you downloading stuff from the internet, the FBI, the Justice Department involved, and State Attorney General's Office of Florida, and you're going to have more resources and greater technical ability, and they can try to figure out who he's been contacting, who he's been texting, who he's been calling, who he's been sending pictures to, who he's been taking pictures from, commercial transactions, how much money did he make, when did he make it, payments, Venmo, or however he did it, that sort of thing. But there's always, and nowadays, there's always going to be a digital footprint. Back in the olden days, you had carbon copies of forms. Now everything's a digital footprint. But that will, spawn new investigations. And hopefully, as one good thing, is that you may have a lot of other people like Stefan Stearns, in prison in the coming years. And that would be a good thing for society.
Absolutely. Hey, Jude. He was on Telegram. Yes, we know that. We can't really talk about that much. YouTube doesn't like that topic. So we know that. We know who this guy is. We know what he was doing. We know about, that's why we refer to the 60 felonies as the 60 SA felonies. That's all we say. But we know he was doing something with these videos. Absolutely. Sassy Frass. Police off the cuff. Could a deal involving accessory to murder and false reports to police be struck that could prohibit charges being made, especially when the cover-up is so extensive? Mike, I'm going to let you answer that one since you're the lawyer.
Yeah. It's, there's going to be, they might need some of her testimony, and they might want to give her some immunity. But there's going to be multiple charges I could think of right now. You're talking about filing a false police report, recklessly endangering the welfare of your child, possibly participating as a conspiracy after the fact, in covering up a homicide. It's up to the district attorney what they want to do with her. First, they're going to figure out what they want to do with her in the future, what they want to do with her now as a witness coming forward in Stefan Stearns' cases, because they are probably going to need some of her testimony. You're going to have a live witness there talking about certain habits and things and times and places and dates and things like that. So they're going to probably have to give her immunity, but it doesn't mean she's going to get complete immunity. It means that she's going to get some immunity, and they might not give her immunity they might give her, say, immunity on the reckless endangerment or filing the false police report, but they may not give her any sort of immunity on the criminal, the being accessorial as accessory after the fact on the homicide. So they have tremendous leverage over her on a number of different levels. So we'll see. But it could be possible that they will strike a deal with her on some of the lesser crimes. I mean, of course, endangering the welfare of a child is a serious crime, but the homicide is what I think they're ultimately looking forward to charging her with that as an accessory. But I'm sure there's going to be a little immunity granted on certain specific actions, and the rest maybe not. But she's not in a good place. She doesn't have charges against her right now, but you don't want to be Jen Soto because she's just sitting there just waiting for the district attorney to say, go get her and bring her in and they'll charge her. That's going to take a while, but she knows she's in the crosshairs.
Absolutely. Okay, Miss Girl from the chat. Yes, the Telegram CEO was arrested for failure to enforce content moderation. Jason Brown, correct rigor is temporary first few hours only. Luna Thomas with Jen having MS, sleeping in an open area. Madeline, so okay, MS with all the roommates allowed in their homes. You know, Luna, that house, you know, they I believe there was 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were filled with roommates, and one of them apparently had a 15-year-old son. It's just like, that is not a good place for a 13-year-old girl to grow up in, with all of these strangers living in her mother's house, and then bring this monster in, this Stefan Stearns monster, and it, you know, the recipe for disaster was written all over the place. Leigh Miller, if the roommate heard a noise around 8 a.m., he probably dropped her trying to get Leigh. Actually, she heard a noise, and I was incorrect before. It was at 02:30, which is 2:30 a.m. She heard a loud noise coming from the room. That's guest room 4, as is described, as it is known as. Sassy Frass, so sick of the mental health victim card. Yeah, it seems everyone is on some kind of mental health drug these days, right? And even Stefan Stearns, he told he has ADHD also. Dude, you're 37. Shut up. Who cares? You know, get over it, dude. You're 37 years old. Who cares if you have ADHD? That's something we care if a child has, right? You know, Janelle Woodward, can't believe he dumped her things in broad daylight. Well, he's not a rocket scientist. Let's put it that way. Didn't he realize there were cameras all over that location? Didn't he realize there were cameras in the Holiday Inn parking lot when he pulled the body out of the front seat and dumped her in the trunk? Annabelle Roma, that McDonald's story was so stupid. Yes, Annabelle Roma, I get so sick of hearing that McDonald's story. It's such an obviously made-up story that it really does make you nauseous when you listen to it. Kissimmee, Florida. Stefan Stearns had some set of bees to drag a body from upstairs, room number 4, down the stairs, through the kitchen and living room, out the door, across the front into the car with multiple people in the house. Yeah, which means he must have done it during the early morning hours when it was still dark and somehow got her into the car, you know, and then all the other things he did, and he was, you know, caught on video, but not with that, not with putting the body in his car. Just yeah, it's tough to understand how he was able to accomplish that. Okay, Miss Gill, what do you make of Stefan Stearns Googling sevoflurane, the pediatric anesthesia medication, 2 weeks beforehand? Okay, Miss Girl, I was unaware of that. I mean, that would be a very important piece of evidence, obviously. He may have drugged her because also her mother, Jennifer, said to him, make sure she takes her meds before bed or something of that sort. So she was taking certain amount of meds. Mama Morris, the phone data is so telling because if he truly dropped MS at school, then she wouldn't be at home walking around with the phone. Mama Morris, I don't think she was ever walking around. I think he was walking around with her phone. I think she was dead at that point. Barbara Miller, I haven't listened yet. Maybe Police Off the Cuff will cover it, but Grizzly also did a video concerning interviews with Stefan. We played that, Barbara. We played that early on, very early on in the show. And the parents of Stefan Stearns, I just can't understand parents like that, you know. They are what I would refer to as enablers. People that enable a 37-year-old son to be a loser. You know, is it helping a 37-year-old son that you pay his rent? Is that helping him? And I'm talking about a guy that makes no effort to get a job, makes no effort to better himself, just plays video games, vapes, drives around like a fool, lives with his girlfriend in a condo with two other rooms occupied by roommates. I mean, dude, are you kidding me? You know, and his parents are paying his rent, $600. They couldn't afford that either because they were complaining. That's when his father wondered, how did he have money? Because he was always buying things. Well, some of you suggested how he had money. He was selling those videos. And that's, I think that's probably part B of this investigation. We'll find out about it as the investigation comes closer to the prosecution.
But a lot of the times it was just the three of us sleeping together in my bed too.
That audio was recorded a short time before Stephen Stearns was charged with the sexual battery of Maddie. On Friday, March 1st, detectives went back to Jen Soto hours before Maddie's body was found. They said they asked her what she thought Stephen Stearns was guilty of. Soto said, "He's been grooming and abusing my child." The detective wrote, "I asked Jennifer if she thought Stephen killed Madeline, and she said, 'At this point, I do.'" Now, this was just hours after they had shown her photographs that showed.
Unbelievable. Like at this point,
Right.
I do think so. She was hugging him and comforting him, as they reported her missing. Remember that
That's right.
that TV
Teary.
station that interviewed them? Just absolutely outrageous. And she was, she was comforting the guy. And I don't know. It's. I want to put this up on the screen. This is an important part of the investigation.
Inside of her face and her hands. Madeline was wearing a green hoodie. The hoodie portion was over the top of her head, blue jeans and white socks. The bottom of Madeline's socks were clean, which indicates she did not walk anywhere, or the socks would have had dirt on the bottom. Those documents that were just released said that Maddie's autopsy determined her death was a homicide and that she had been strangled. The exact time Maddie died isn't known, but her health app only showed her taking those 163 steps that morning between 7:05 and 7:15. Photos also show part of the searches of the condo where Maddie lived with her mom and those two female roommates. Some photos showed the area of the living room where Maddie's room was located, but her mother, as I mentioned earlier, told detectives she didn't like to sleep there, so she typically slept with her. Jen Soto was asked to describe her sex life with Stefan by detectives. She described it as vanilla and said there were some.
I want to move on from that because
Yeah.
let me just I'll play a little bit more of the parents' interview because for those that came in late.
What he did?
I would, if you had asked me Sunday, I would have said no. Never in a million years. He loved that child that was supposed to be his stepdaughter.
This is Stefan Stearns' mother. We played this earlier on, but for those that came in later, we'll give it another listen to.
Stayed together. He helped raise her. He was not allowed to discipline her. Maddie did that. Jen did that, but he acted as a peacekeeper. But no, and to kill her, no. I think if I had to put forward a guess, I would think that it was accidental.
Here's Stefan Stearns' father, Chris Stearns.
I said, do we really know our son? Because at that point, I didn't know what to question. But
Apparently not, from some of the stuff that's coming out of these calls into Grey Hughes.
That interview was in March. In April, detectives made note of a jail phone call between Chris Stearns and Stephen Stearns. During the call, detectives quote Stephen Stearns as saying, "You know that I would never have wanted that for her," meaning Madeline. Stephen then said, "I am not really sure that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it. I have never felt anything like that before. It was horrible." Chris tells Stephen that he hopes the truth will come out, and Stephen responds, "Well, yeah, The next day, Chris Stearns called police after he found a hard drive in his storage unit that he said had been removed from Stefan's computer. Investigators said it had been analyzed and not used since 2020, but contained 35,000 images of child pornography, but none of Maddie. Chris Stearns had told detectives that he actually believed Jen Soto had some responsibility for her daughter's murder.
You look at her hugging him and consoling him at that interview, knowing full well what the truth is. And I think Stefan's decided to be the fall guy in this because he's feeling remorse over the inappropriate relationship he had with Maddie, and that since if he's going to be discovered in this, that he's going to be the front guy in this. But she's just as culpable as he is in this.
There have been a lot of questions about whether Jen Soto could face charges for allowing Maddie to sleep in a bed with Stefan Stearns. WFTV reported last week that police have no plans to charge Jen Soto. I contacted the state attorney's office for that area, and I was told, quote, the current evidence and information support the indictment of Stefan Stearns for first-degree murder. They wouldn't say anything more. Stefan Stearns remains behind bars, charged with Maddie's murder and sexual battery.
So there you have the parents of Stefan Stearns. Chris, I believe it is, his mom's name was Deborah, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in a world of their own too. Here they find a hard drive from 2020, so 4 years old, and 35,000 images. I mean, this guy is a monster, as bad as you could get. As bad as you could get in this world, this twisted, disgusting world he's in. And they're trying to blame Jennifer Soto. And there's plenty of blame to go for her. But guess what, sir? Your son was driving around with a dead 13-year-old in his car. In any state, in any land, in any country in this world, that is heavy-duty evidence that he's the one who killed her. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, I go back and forth. Sometimes I feel sorry for them, and sometimes I'm just like disgusted. But someone in the chat wrote that, the parents are like enablers. I think you even said it, the parents are enablers. I can't imagine the nightmare that they're going through because, before maybe they thought he was just an idiot, a jerk, a lazy bum, that sort of thing. But basically a halfway decent human being. Now they know that he was acting as a disgusting human being, and finding that hard drive, I can imagine that was a nightmare. They turned it over to the police. That shows that they're honest people. And so that's one good thing that they did, because it may help further on down the line with other investigations. But I can't imagine what it would be like to be a parent and thinking, okay, your kid may not be achieving much. They may be a little bit idiotic in the way they act, maybe immature, but then finding out that this horrific information, that what had gone on, that he is actually not just a helpless moron, but he's actually a monster. They have to live with that also for the rest of their lives. And as a parent, you got to be in anguish to think that your kid that you raised could be capable, somebody, that you raised is capable of doing what this guy appears to be capable of doing. And you're just sitting there in your own little world of crap trying to deal with that. It's a rough place to be as a parent.
Absolutely. Schmitty from the chat, Sergeant Bill and Professor Geary, how much time do they have to make a full-on case to arrest for Jennifer Soto? I thought it was talked about last week. That's why I'm not livid that she hasn't been arrested yet. Schmitty, they have all the time in the world. And that's why they haven't pulled the trigger, because there is no statute of limitations for murder. All right. So they can arrest her whenever. And there's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions on when did she know? If she wasn't involved in the murder of her own child, then when did she find out? It appears that she found out a lot earlier than she would let on before, according to this paperwork that we read tonight. A lot of really excellent information. I want to play a little bit of Bobby Chacon, who was on Vinnie Politan's here.
Or hearing anything suspicious? Does that make sense to you? No, I think they saw it and they were either.
But wow, she must have been upstairs. And even if she ran upstairs,
I don't know what happened
wouldn't she
there.
notice a tripod, some weird
Grizzler? Because of Grizzly True Crime.
Grizzly, like Grizzly. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, Vinny, I've been obsessed with this myself because it doesn't make any sense. How do you get a body out of the house and all of that? How does Jen then not know? And, you know, in studying the photos that I've received from my FOIA request, which is about 40 gigs of photos, slowly but surely, I wonder if the whole going upstairs is really just a story, another lie on top of a lie. I truly believe everything happened downstairs that night. There's so many clues. There's Madeline Soto's one crock that's in Jen Soto's master bedroom. There is Madeline Soto's underwear just under the bed sheets. There's Stefan Stern's boxer shorts, which matches the one he's wearing that I unfortunately had to see in some of the photos because they slowly peeled his clothes off for evidence. And so it matches that as well. So how on earth would Jen Soto be like, there's his boxer shorts, there's her underwear, there's her crock, but wow, she must have been upstairs. And even if she ran upstairs, wouldn't she notice a tripod, some weird cream, possibly some weird toys and things lying around? It doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense to me now, based on everything I've seen, is that it happened downstairs.
Bobby Chacon, you've got all these people in the house. No one is seeing or hearing anything suspicious. Does that make sense to you?
No, I think they saw it and they were either complicit in it or they were ignoring it. I think that it's hard for me to believe that this pattern of abuse lasted this many years with nobody else knowing except for the victim and the perpetrator. That mother, in my mind, had to know. If she, mothers have that instinct, that motherly instinct, even if they're bad mothers. If your 13-year-old daughter is uncomfortable in a situation, she knew the girl was uncomfortable in this relationship. And it's just it's a tragedy that this young child fell under the care of a mother who would ignore this kind of activity and subject her daughter to this kind of danger.
Yeah, and as we have heard and has been reported, law enforcement has no plans to charge Jen Soto with anything. And my take on that is they can't prove that she knew based on whatever evidence they've uncovered here. But the evidence is the evidence. I want to put up on the screen, this is from Orange County Sheriff's Office search warrant. This is another baffling part of all this. It should be noted, prior to the search of Stefan's apartment, I was advised there were photographs located on Stefan's phone where he appeared to record his roommate in secret. While at the apartment, I was able to utilize Stefan's cell phone and recreate the angle and contents of the photographs by placing his cell phone under the crack of the roommate's bedroom door. I photographed the placement of Stefan's cell phone and uploaded it to evidence.com. So Gisela, this is a guy who seems to have a little bit of a history of this behavior, yet still no one knows, no one is suspicious, no one sees or hears anything.
Unfortunately, as we know in true crime, that's how predators and groomers operate. And they seem to have, their appetite cannot be satiated. So, I mean, if he's not abusing a little girl in the home, or I don't know what he's doing to Jen Soto, then he's filming under the door crack. I mean, it's so sickening to think that he was doing that, let alone everything he filmed on his phone with Maddie, dating back to when she was 8 years old.
I want to put up on screen something else from the search warrant. During the Orange County Forensics Unit, they photographed numerous items of clothing and bedding which were identified as being in contact with the victim during sexual abuse. So this is stuff that's matching the photos that they retrieved from his phone.
So that would have been something they would match up the photos that were recovered from Stefan Stearns' phone and try to match up the rooms with they were taken in. And that would be very important evidence at his first trial, which of course would be for the SA, because it makes sense that all of those crimes were committed inside Jennifer Soto's home.
Yeah, and Billy, it also shows a long line of like conduct, that this wasn't, maybe the attack on Madeline wasn't a single episode, or how he abused her wasn't a single episode of anger or anything like that, that he did over the course of many months, perhaps years. That's his habit. That's how he acts at night. This is what he does. He may go around and take pictures of people surreptitiously. He may, so it shows a course of conduct, which shows habit, which is perfectly admissible. And so that just puts him deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole when his attorney may try to argue that there's some sort of misunderstanding or you're not, don't believe what you see, members of the jury, because they've figured out exactly where he was when many of those photos were taken. They could replicate that photo over the course and do it for a number of photos that were taken with the timestamp over the course of years and months. So that really just gives, it's more rope that he's using to hang himself right now. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
100%. Fuzzy Doxy, thank you for the $9.99 super sticker. Good facts. Thanks, Fuzzy Doxy. Thank you for your contribution and for your continued support through this show. So much new information came out, and I thank, Grizzly was one of the persons that originally got a lot of this Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. They used to call it FOIL, Freedom of Information Law. And a lot of these reports were released as per the Freedom of Information Law. Let me play a little bit more of Vinnie Politan with Bobby Chacon, one of our favorites that comes on this show.
Bobby Chacon, does his story make any sense to you?
Well, the first thing I'd want to know, it depends on what their normal practice was. Did he drop her off to school often? What was their practice to do? Now, most schools, and I know that one of her classmates said that never happened. Most schools now have circular driveways where the parent has to drop the kid off. There's custodians waiting there. There's teachers, and there's, not janitors, but people that are going to take custody of the child right there at the school entrance. There's very delineated methods for dropping kids off at school. You don't drop a kid off four blocks from school. Now, that
attention him. He should be looked at as a suspect because the story just didn't fit. Forget even the content. The non-behavioral behavior clues didn't match up to truthfulness. That's the bottom line, Vinny. I called you Lenny.
Not a problem. Bobby Chacon, does his story make any sense to you?
Well, the first thing I'd want to know, it depends on what their normal practice was. Did he drop her off to school often? What was their practice?
All right, so
you make a left at Town Center this time.
Town Center, then make a right onto, yes.
And then you drop her off around
dropped her off around halfway up the road there.
So keep in mind, all of this is still northbound.
Okay.
Right? You're still northbound on Jungyang Parkway.
Northbound.
So why is your car seen going southbound at 8:10? I'll show you what location it is. McDonald's is
Stefan
over
Stearns
here.
being interviewed on February
8:10.
27th.
Your car is seen going southbound at this intersection. So meaning going toward Kissimmee.
Mm-hmm. I had forgotten my gate clicker. I'm sorry. I forgot. I had gone back to the house real quick after we left because I forgot my gate clicker.
So you had a medical lie.
I actually had to go through the front gate and use my parking pass to grab my clicker. So it was the wrong time. I'm sorry. Like I said, I was guesstimating these times. I'm not a morning person.
Bobby, what'd you think of that little exchange?
Well, it's one of those things where every time you catch them in a little bit of a lie, they try to explain it away just up to the point where they can get away with it, right? And then if there was another timeline problem, he'd have another explanation. He wouldn't remember all the stuff at once. He's going to piecemeal it. And this is constantly what we see with people that lie over and over again. They piecemeal it. They just explain away one lie, and then you present them with another lie, and they just come up with something to explain that one away. It's this process. It's maddening sometimes.
Yeah, it sounds like he's drinking from the same water cooler as that other woman from Central Florida years ago. All right, let me ask you, Susan, what did you hear in his voice when he's confronted with evidence that they have of him going in an opposite direction, which contradicts the story he is trying to tell the officer?
Well, what you hear is what you don't hear, and that is you don't hear anything. So he is listening to what the officer is saying, And he's quiet. He doesn't rebuttal it. He doesn't deny it. Doesn't give you another alternative. He's waiting until the officer gives him more information. On the fly, he's trying to figure out another avenue. He uses this very polite, which is one of the deceptive indicators. They're either overly polite and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." Now, what does he have to be sorry for? And then all of a sudden he forgets. That's the other one. They forget all of a sudden. Now let me kind of reconstruct it again. So what he's doing is just like what your other guest was saying. He's constructing his story along the way. When he feels, which he doesn't feel, like he's convincing the investigator, when he doesn't feel like he's doing it, he tries to give you more information. So he gives you a lot of extraneous information that really is irrelevant. But for the most part, it was that he was completely silent because he was waiting to see what the officer was going to say and then reenact the scenario for him on the fly.
Bobby, what's that moment like when you're interrogating or interviewing someone and you've caught them in a lie?
You know, I mean, it happens all the time, and you handle it differently depending on the person and depending on how much other information you have. You let them hang themselves. Like if I were here, like if I was doing the first interview, I would have said, listen, think really carefully. Tell me the timeline of departing the house and getting back to the house. So there would be no, oh, I forgot later on. No, I asked you to take your time and give me that timeline. Think about it clearly so that later on, you lock them in so that later on when you find the lie, you find proof of the lie, it's much more difficult for them to kind of explain it away. Oh, I forgot. So you lock them in first. Then when you have them, and then you just start with you add up the lies, and then you say, look, come on. Let's get truthful here.
All right, we've got more to cover.
So that's Bobby Chacon, a great FBI agent. He worked with Brooklyn North Homicide for a while, worked with the NYPD. His dad and his brother were both NYPD sergeants. So we're sort of paisan with Bobby Chacon. Yeah. He's a Long Island boy, and he went to Hofstra University Law School, went to undergraduate in Florida. Great guy. I know him. He's a good friend of mine. And we've had him on the show numerous times. Jeanette Ditz, I believe Jen knew. I'm sorry, let me remove that from the. I believe Jen knew. I honestly believe Maddie told her mom on Sunday that if she don't put a stop to it, she was going to tell either a teacher or a counselor at school, even another family member. Jeanette Ditz, that's a possibility. Absolutely. Desiree Conrad. From the chat, working as a CVA and meeting mothers like this, it is clear she's low self-esteem, and these women are targets, but willing participants covering for the scum 9 out of 10 times. Desiree, thank you for your professional assessment there. Sassy Frass, police found out that not a single person in MS's life did anything to protect her, but bet that makes them motivated to investigate with vigor, leaving no stone unturned. LJ forever. That explains my questions regarding charging JS. Thank you, Professor Geary. Let's see. Pauline Buckles and Stern's mother wants him to implicate the roommates. What gall? Yeah, that is. Isn't that? And this is from a guy who had 35,000 images on his old hard drive. Judy Page is going down. 2 prosecutors waiting for her to testify. Cheryl F. Hi, Sergeant Bill, Professor Mike Geary, and everyone. Welcome, Cheryl F. We learned so much from you both. Thank you. Peggy Willis, thank you. Thank you for listening. Gray, the amount of grace Jen had towards Stefan Stearns, but none regarding her own daughter, is unfathomable. Rest in peace, Maddie. Guys, I think that this case, when you look at the thumbnail, Jennifer Soto's cause of death, strangulation. Madeline Soto's cause of death, strangulation. Did Jennifer know? And many of you folks in the chat, and I was on, something. I think she knew, but I'm not committing to at what time she knew. When did she know? Because I know that she figured it out at some point. But at some point in this investigation, she was comforting Stefan Stearns. And the fact that she knew about the essay, that to me, that makes all bets off. That she maybe knew about everything. She knew about that, Mike.
She did. She admitted to it. She knew about it, and she didn't think it was evil. Yeah, she knew about it. Yeah,
Well,
and then
Mike,
that's
what do you say to that? That is evil. That is 100% evil.
Yeah. So she knew that there was a course of conduct that Stefan was engaging in with poor Maddie, and that she knew about it, and the mother knew about it, and Jen thought for some reason, for whatever reason in her little mind, it was acceptable conduct on Stefan's part, and she didn't think it was evil. She allowed it to go on. Someone in the chat said that she probably suffers from poor self-image or something like that. Probably does, but the fact is, and you're right, probably does, and she probably is a victim constantly in her own life. But the fact is that no matter what, she has a right, she has the duty to take care of that child, and that's not something that she can get away from. So you may feel sorry for her in some little respects here and there because you're human and you feel okay, she's really messed up, but she knew this. She knew what had been going on for a while. Maybe she didn't know how long, but she knew that it had gone on, and that is scary in and of itself.
100%. Kissimmee, Florida, from the chat. Bill, don't you think he had to have help moving the body into the car? No, I don't. I think he could have easily have just thrown her over his shoulder, carried her down the stairs, carried into the car. He's a big guy. He looks like he's about 6'4", 6'5". He looks to be 220, 230. He'd have no problem just throwing her over his shoulder. I don't think he needed help. If he asked for help, that would implicate one other person or have another person know what he did. So, no, I think that he carried her into the car by himself. It's, this case is I don't agree with Grizzly. I think the murder took place up in the room. There are other ways that her underwear and her crock could have got into the bedroom, but I think that the fact that the noise was heard from that room, guest room number 4, hellhole number 4, at 2:30 in the morning, I think that is the location where the murder took place. And
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I think it's because at midnight, people and other roommates may have just gone to bed, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody's asleep by now. It's pitch dark, everybody's asleep, and that would be the time that that would be the best time to get away with a homicide when by 2 o'clock in the morning everybody's asleep deep into the night. But that seems to be a singular event that roommate remembers, and that seems like an odd thing. She remembered it, and so therefore that seems indicative of a 2 o'clock in the morning attack on Maddie.
Melanie Copeland, he gave her double the meds that night. Yeah. Luna Thomas, he claimed he gave her a double dose of medication, so this must be a fact. Lay Mill, I feel like there's some significance that she just turned 13. Well, maybe there, as many people in the chat have implied, maybe she said that was it. This wasn't going to happen anymore, and that could have preempted what occurred that night. Faticus, wait until Maddie's toxicology tests come out. That creep was drugging her. Faticus, there's no doubt it's back. They just have not released it. I don't know if any of the content creators on YouTube have filed Freedom of Information Act to get the toxicology report, but so far we haven't seen that released on YouTube. Toy Thomas, Adderall at bedtime seems like that's way too much. How would you sleep? Does anyone have a feeling that the mother, I don't know what that means. Rebecca Height, thank you. Justice for Maddie. Absolutely justice for Madeline Soto. Ladybug had to drug her to do what he was doing to her. Cindy Powell, Stefan Stearns' parents are strange. You said that. You could say that again. I found them to be two enablers that I just couldn't understand their attitudes. Desiree Conrad, she willingly served her daughter up to this S-bag to do whatever he wanted. As long as she had a boyfriend, babysitter, Jen should be charged with neglect at least. Desiree, I 100% agree with you that neglect, a felony through omission, failure to protect her daughter. Lolo, I think Maddie threatened to tell on him and he couldn't let her do that. How stupid it is to murder someone to keep them quiet. He'll be spending the rest of his life in prison. Let's hope that he gets the death penalty for those of us who believe in that. I hope he sincerely gets the death penalty. Joanne Murdoch at Police Off the Cuff. How does Jen get away with saying she went in the car that morning with Maddie to school? And well, right, Joanne, she was lying. That's why we couldn't believe that she knew about this. And then she said we. She used the term we, and she had nothing to do with driving there. So many may think, even in the chat, that did Jennifer have anything to do with the death of her daughter? We don't know. We don't know at this point. And if the police know, they're not letting on right now because she hasn't been charged. Dennis Violin, I'm not buying the upstairs story. I still think all three were downstairs in the king beds. SS couldn't carry a bag of laundry down the stairs. Well, I don't know about that. Plaza 1000, loser, killer, absolutely. Toy Thomas, he's 16, stuck in a 37-year-old man's body. You guys have some strong feelings about this man. I don't blame you. I do too. Jason Brown, first duty of any parent is protection. Red flags are always there, period. Male or female, allowing this to occur is unforgivable at all family levels. Jason Brown, 100%, you're preaching to the choir. Let's see, a couple more from the chat. Carol Grayston, thank you for being such a great moderator and such a loyal fan to Police Off the Cuff. Pauline Buckles, if she thinks he was grooming her, that implies over time, and she knew. Pauline, 100% she knew.
That's right.
You're right. Very, very intuitive, Pauline. 100% she knew. Sassy Frass, JS accepted that cash from Stefan Stearns and gave Stefan Stearns all the access to MS he wanted. That's trafficking a minor. Wow. You guys are one step ahead. JPL, the Stelladoro, Bill and Mike, you've been valuable and informational this evening. Thank you. Well, thank you for tuning in. Cindy Powell, this case is a real freak show. Carly, his dad said that Jen was so calm and worried about getting Stefan an attorney. What WTF is wrong with her? Carly, you're right. I can't figure that out either. There's many things here that aren't explainable. Just absolutely horrific. And Mama Morris, clear indicator to me that Jennifer Soto knows something is the fact that JS never searched for her daughter. No one would be able to hold me back if one of my kids went missing. Mama Morris, very intuitive. 1,000%. You are correct. 1,000%. Jessica Johnson, she didn't want to sleep in that room because she knew what he'd done to her. She wanted to sleep with mom to protect her, but she didn't. The mom absolutely did not protect her, and that's for sure. Carmen Ross, Jen Soto was a loser choosing a boyfriend like that and putting her daughter in danger. Maddie was such an unlucky one to be born to this kind of sicky idiot mother. Jen Soto should go to jail. Well, that may happen. That absolutely may happen. Gorgeous George, at Police Off the Cuff, less than 10 times in the same bed, but tens of thousands of SA photos. The math ain't matching. Thanks to the both of you. Gorgeous George, thank you. You're 100%. Some outstanding comments from the chat. Dawn Marie, welcome, Dawn Marie. Always great to see you in the chat. Just some outstanding people. And again, I'm seeing some brand new names in the chat. And folks, if you're not subscribed, right on the screen, just hit that subscribe button. It's free. Join the Police Off the Cuff YouTube family. Mike, we've been on an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to give you, I thought you did a fantastic job. I thought the new information makes this case just so much more interesting, so much more that we know now that we didn't know, that we were just guessing. And now we know because through the police supplemental complaint reports. Your final thoughts, Mike?
Billy, the final thoughts are people should be very happy with the way the police conducted the investigation into Maddie's disappearance and her homicide and the abuse that she suffered. They're doing a tremendous job. Everybody, from what I could see, they did a great job. So, thank them for that. And you always have to pray and remember Maddie, because that poor girl suffered tremendously, and she no longer has to suffer anymore. And so that we can pray for her. But just keep the faith that Jen will get justice for Jen too. That's going to take a while, but she will be given her just due in time. She's got no place to go, and keep our fingers crossed, because she admitted to the police, she knew what was going on, and she willingly covered for this guy to the police numerous times and made excuses for him, and even tried to get his father to get an attorney for him because she thought he needed it. Everything she did was to protect Stefan, and really there was no care for her daughter. So hopefully she'll get justice for that.
Absolutely. Very well said, Mike. Folks, again, thank you to everyone for tuning in this evening. We're going to stay on this case as new information comes forward. Again, we want to pray for the soul of Madeline Soto and hope that justice is rendered for all of the people that did wrong to Madeline Soto during her very, very brief life. God bless everyone, and have a good night from Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories.
One episode just ain't enough.